difference at this point does it make?
First things first, I'ma say all the words inside my head. I'm fired up and tired of the way that things have been. Oh, ooh, the way that things have been. Oh, ooh. Second thing, second, don't you tell me what you think that I can be. I'm the one at the sail, I'm the master of my sea. Oh, ooh, the master of my sea. Oh, I was broken from a young age, taking my soak into the masses, writing my poems for the few that look at me, took to me, shook at me, feeling me, singing from heartache, from the pain, taking my message from the veins, speaking my lesson from the brain, seeing the beauty through the... Hey, you burn me up, believer, believer. Hey, you burn me up, believer.
The primary purpose of what they're doing is also very simple, and it's never been done in this country anywhere near like is happening now. It's called election interference.
Third things third, send a prayer to the ones up above. All the hate that you've heard has turned your spirit to a dove. Oh, ooh, your spirit up above. Oh, ooh. I was choking in the crowd, building my rain up in the cloud, falling like ashes to the ground, hoping my feelings they would drown, but they never did. Ever lived, ebbing and flowing, inhibited, limited, till it broke open and rained down. It rained down like. Hey, you burn me up, believer, believer. Hey, you burn me up, believer, believer. Hey, let the waters fall, let them rain. My love, my God, it came from. Hey, you burn me up, believer, believer. Last things last, by the grace of the fire and the flames. You're the face of the future, the blood in my veins. Oh, ooh, the blood in my veins. Oh, ooh.
Hello, everyone.
Good
That
evening,
was
ladies.
good evening. Yeah, that was quite an intro. I know I want to acknowledge some of the people who generally, when we say stop blackpilling and stop with the negativity, I kind of want to acknowledge their feelings tonight. And I want to know how you ladies are doing before we get into it. How are you doing, Carrie?
I'm good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
No, we talked about it before. We're all in a storm. Our nation's in a storm. We all are. A lot of you watching, I imagine, are. So, but we're hanging in there, aren't we? How are you?
We sure are. I'm doing great. I'm on a staycation, which
Yay.
to have a few days off, staying at home, getting a lot done. How about you, Moxie? How are you doing?
I am hanging in there. It's been a wild couple of weeks.
This is probably an appropriate show since
Yeah. I'm worn down, but I'm here. I'm kicking.
Great. We've got Angela Monroe on YouTube. Hey, Angela. We hope
Hi,
you're
Angela.
doing good tonight.
Thanks for joining us.
What's that?
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. We've got Herbie on Rumble, and we've got Becca on Rumble, and Deplorable on Rumble.
Horrible. You made it.
Magnolia.
Magnolia.
Yeah. Good evening,
Hello, everyone.
everybody.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, we're excited to share this show with you. We kind of wanted to talk about everything that's going on and talk about, what is happening, and close it out with maybe some encouraging words So we've kind of got a few parts here. I showed a lot of headlines in that video for the intro. Yeah, a lot's been going on, and it feels like justice is not happening, or there's two-tiered justice system.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
have you guys been following some of the stuff that's been going on with the Biden, the weaponization of government, and some of those things that they're exposing?
I have, and then the whole thing with Burisma and the bribery. I mean, there's a lot actually, but I actually have not been super focused on that. I know about it, but was there something new today? I mean, every day there's an avalanche,
There
of
is an
information.
avalanche.
Yeah.
Have you been following some of that, Moxie?
A little bit, but not too much. I've had a lot going on in the background that hasn't allowed me to focus on a lot of the current events.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of what's being exposed is it's disheartening to hear some of the stuff the FBI has known about what's been going on with the Biden family. So this isn't even about Hunter, you know. I just posted today about MTG. Marjorie Taylor Greene
Mhm.
spoke on the House floor about the form that was finally released. So the House has been asking the FBI to release certain documents, and one of those documents was a FD 1023 form
Mhm.
from the FBI, and they haven't been releasing it. And finally, there was a whistleblower that came out that had the document and released it to them. But the stuff they have been releasing has been highly redacted. It's like they're classifying things that don't need to be classified. They're redacting things to prevent people from being embarrassed.
Mhm.
I read an article recently that the FBI is a place for evidence to get uh, shut off,
It's where
and
it goes to die.
yes, where
Where
it goes.
investigations go to die.
You must have seen that.
I did.
Yeah.
DOJ and the FBI, that's where they go to die.
Yeah. And then there's Trump, who they, since 2015, have been trying to find stuff on, and they've already indicted him on two things. Now there's two more outstanding. One is the January 6th
Mhm.
stuff. They're going to accuse him of trying to overturn the election.
Mhm.
I have a question. Since when, if you want to challenge something, or you don't believe that there was that you think there were shenanigans going on, and you call that out and you try to expose that, since when is that illegal?
Now that is a good question worth pondering.
Sorry, I had to do it.
The Democrats have been doing that for decades.
Yeah.
Decades.
They
Well,
have been.
it's not illegal. It's not, but that's what totalitarian governments do. They want to quash the opposition, any dissenting voices, and the closer they get in their desperation to actually crashing, the crazier the laws get, or lawlessness, let's say, right?
Mhm.
I think that's what we're seeing. And, with so much coming out, I think that in Ukraine, that whole story, just, they don't have the narrative anymore. It's basically over, right? They're looking for a new narrative. And so to cover up, to have for the news cycle.
What do you mean?
And that's it. Well, that's Trump, because there's so much coming out about Biden
Oh,
that now it's like, okay, so let's bring Trump back in. Let's get him for January 6th.
well, here's the thing. They're going very quickly after Trump on everything. I mean, documents. Every president has done when they left office was take documents. They got him on some crazy gal. If you've seen her interviewed, she's nutso. that claims that Trump groped her in a dressing room or something like that. And then there's this January 6th. He did a speech, and he even told people to go peacefully protest, walk down the Capitol and protest. Just a few bad actors infiltrate, and then they want to blame it on him. And then this whole Georgia thing. I mean, he's saying he's trying to overturn the election because he said, you can find X number of votes. And what he's talking about is the fraudulent votes. So,
well, there's
but
also
then-
the new.
Oh, go ahead.
The new video of the woman that died on January 6th. There's the police video that's been released. Maybe you've seen that already, but I mean, basically everything that the Capitol Police said was a lie.
Yes, I saw that. Actually, I had somebody send that to me yesterday.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring that up today because there was and for those that didn't see it, I should pull up that video.
Yes, please.
Actually,
I haven't seen it.
let me do that because yeah, I'm gonna pull up that tweet actually.
There's just so much damning evidence coming out.
Well, it's important because if we don't set the context, then people aren't going to know what we're talking about.
Okay.
So, so let me just pull this up. But basically, Julie Kelly on Twitter. Can you see this, or should I make it bigger?
A little bit bigger, please. There we go.
There we go. So she has a video for 2.5 years. This officer, Aquilino, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He lied about injuries. So what he did was he said that he was injured. His head was smashed in. He couldn't walk and had to have stitches on his foot. And I don't remember what else. But then what they found is Roseanne Boyland. Okay, so let's explain who Roseanne Boyland is. She was out in the crowd and she was getting hit by police with the sticks, and then she fell to the ground because there was just so many people. And I don't remember if she had cardiac arrest or something, but they were working on her to try to do they were doing CPR on her.
But that they were it was a tunnel. I don't remember if it was the crypt or what part it was, but there were a lot of people going through a tunnel, and the police shot off tear gas, pepper gas.
She was also hit with the sticks.
Right, but there was so much chaos, and she got trampled.
She did. She got trampled. Yep.
So and then, I mean, she was unconscious, and they were yelling. The other, protesters were yelling to get help, and the police didn't do anything. And there was a female Capitol officer that actually struck her in the head with a stick while she was unconscious.
Right.
Face.
So, yes.
Sorry,
and
it's really upsetting.
It is upsetting. But besides all those details, what happened was it took a while, but they eventually brought her into the building and started performing CPR on her. Mm-hmm. Now, the time of day that this video is, there's no sound with it, but you see the highlight circle? This is the guy that says he was so injured. And this is at 4:20 p.m. They're working on Roseanne inside. And he's walking around. He's throwing stuff on the floor. He's kicking stuff out of the way. Mm-hmm. He's not injured. But he went and did all of these interviews. He did testimony in front of Congress. He was crying, saying how injured he was and how his wife wanted to hug him and he wouldn't let her hug him because he had tear gas all over him. But he's fine. So this video is really, really long. It's 7 minutes long, but I highly recommend you go read Julie Kelly's Twitter post. This is It looks like it's a video from the Epic Times, so you could go to the Epic Times. But here's the thing is that's not what our show's about, but I wanted to bring this up because they say that officers were killed that day and they weren't. Only protesters were killed that day, and I think there were about 5. So we had Ashley Babbitt who was shot, and Roseanne Boyland.
Mhm.
I can't remember the name of the other 3. Somebody had a heart attack, and yeah. So there's kind of the contrast of not just the justice system, but even how things are portrayed. So people are frustrated. They feel like there's so much unfairness in the world today, and I know that there are black pillars out there that just talk negative, negative, negative. I'm not talking about those people. I'm just talking about the regular patriots that just want to vent their frustrations. I feel like I want to let them, I want to encourage people and let them. It's important to get things out. If I have a bad day at work, I want to call a friend or tell somebody about my
Yeah,
bad day.
that's true.
Right?
Yeah. We want
Even
to be heard, we want to be understood. I mean, and it's hard. Even, we've talked about it throughout the time we've known each other over a year now that, we've had faith and we've felt comfy, but there are days where we just get really weary and really tired and we want to see something, but,
yeah,
done. We want to see justice, but I personally don't think that this is the time for that to be had yet. I think this is all about the very high visibility that the entire nation is seeing with the multiple narratives there, or the truth rather, not narratives, truths. And the truth is, how can we have justice when our justice system is so corrupted? It would be the elite prosecuting the elite.
yeah.
And so all this coming out and then nothing happening, it's not supposed to happen right now. That's how I see it.
How do you see it, Moxie?
What's happening in the news right now is not necessarily for us. It's for the people who haven't known about this stuff.
So you hear of the same, like, get the exposure out there?
It has to be exposed because you know, if people were just all of a sudden arrested, half of this country would be like, what is going on?
Right.
They wouldn't understand what's going on.
Yeah. One of the comments in the video that I very quickly threw together, so don't judge me on that video, was that talking about exposure, like how long do we have to expose, And I get it because there's been exposure happening for a long time, but one thing to remind people of is the Republicans that are doing these investigations and exposing, because they don't have the authority to do any other action but do those investigations, the hearings, make things public, put it on the record. They've only been in office since January. So, they haven't even been there for a year. And look
Right.
at how much is getting out there.
Oh yeah, and then Twitter as well. Now that the truth can be shared. So
Yeah, the Twitter files,
huge. And
huge.
so I got to say there, I talk to people when I get out and go to church, and I'm really surprised by the different types of people that are waking up. At church, it was a little bit older couple, and they were full on red pill. They knew everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And then a young gal at a restaurant, a waitress, she might have been 20. So did she. So it's just like all ages. And so how long? Until, I don't know if I don't think we're going to decide that. I think it's until the people that are, what should we say? say orchestrating, but uh, do you know what I'm trying to say? Until
Well,
enough people
I did a
know,
post. A lot of people talk about the precipice, like
yeah,
only at the precipice, right? But I did a post. I think, and I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast. I think every individual person has their own precipice.
yeah,
I don't think we have to wait for everybody to hit their precipice,
I
but
agree.
I do think knowledge and truth needs to be mainstream before people will accept the justice that has to come.
Yeah.
I don't know that people would accept that right now, but I do see party lines crossing where
Mhm.
even people on the left side of the aisle
Mhm.
are starting to question some things.
And
But
they're switching parties. I noticed that too.
yeah, and in the
Yeah.
meantime, like we can help expose that and through, you know, sharing information on various social media. I know a lot of
Mhm.
people. Somebody posted in my chat the other day about why does everybody think Elon is a savior? I'm like, no, who said Elon's a savior? Nobody said Elon's a savior, and he's
Mhm.
not a perfect person. But at the same time, the stuff that has come out since he's bought Twitter,
Mhm.
the Twitter files exposure,
Mhm.
and not everybody has been brought back to Twitter, which is unfortunate. But some
That's true.
big
Some
voices
really big accounts.
have been brought back,
It,
like.
yeah. In our community. And
Yes,
Elon is following them, which is really cool.
right, and I don't fully 100% trust Elon. You gotta take the meat and spit out the bones. So
Mhm.
it's like, am I for the Neuralink stuff that he's wants to get out there? No,
Yeah.
I'm not. Do I like his CEO that he brought in? Heck no, I do not.
From the World Economic Forum. Yeah.
But, you know,
Yeah.
and some people are still getting, like they got back to Twitter and then got suspended again. So,
Yeah.
but I did see a recent comment where, and I'm getting off track, I'm sorry, where he said that, and I'll tell you why I'm making this point, but he said they still have cleaning up to do in the algorithms.
Mhm.
But my
Mhm.
point is sharing information on social media, including memes, that spread the truth. And I love memes because they people doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, they get it. You
Mhm.
know, you do something funny and it makes a point in a very short way.
Mhm.
So yeah, this one with Trump. Oh, that's funny. I didn't know a Republican president could be impeached for crimes committed by Democrats. Right.
Yeah.
So
They're
uh
projecting so much onto him. It's ridiculous. But I just really feel like the people are being prepared and the stage is being set. You know, that's
yep.
it. And when you look at a lot of the replies, I know there's probably still bots on Twitter, but a lot of the replies, people like regarding the vaccine, I don't go on a lot, but I do go on just to kind of get the pulse. And the vaccines, I mean, people they're getting it. And I think people are grieving and it's pretty intense,
Yeah.
you know? So when we
And yeah.
don't
And
know.
is there a two-tiered justice system? Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. And there's
It's
no
obvious.
and it's no longer a right-wing conspiracy theory that they, the left used to say. So, and I said it before that real change begins from the bottom up. Trump couldn't come in, first term and just lay waste. He couldn't do it because we really didn't know what was going on. We might have, I woke up in 2018, but the majority of Americans, I don't think they really knew the truth.
No,
So,
I mean, I started knowing throughout the years,
mhm,
and even when Obama was coming on, like Glenn Beck really exposed Obama with the communism stuff and the
mhm,
Marxism. Uh,
mhm,
but the whole plan and how everything fits together and how they're infiltrating everywhere and the two-tiered justice system, all of the injustice is being
mhm,
exposed right now. And I think
mhm.
that totally needs to be exposed.
And they've largely operated behind the scenes. It's just really come out so strongly. I mean, if you Eisenhower spoke about it, he was nervous about the military-industrial complex. We know the secret societies speech by JFK. I mean, it's been going on for many, many decades.
Yeah, JFK wanted to get rid of the CIA.
Yeah.
Nixon did too, by the way. He was one of the most popular presidents.
He was.
And it's so funny that now they teach in history and people think he was one of the worst, or,
No,
you
he
know,
was
with the, yeah.
he,
But
he was good, and with his foreign policy. But I mean, what he did then was like child's play compared to what the left is doing in our
yeah,
times now, right?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Some of the additional injustice that's being exposed, like the FBI told Hunter Biden investigator to duck committee questions. So this was a recent article that someone who's going to be in front of the weaponization of government committee was told to not answer certain questions. Um, Garland recently had a statement about January 6th, and why is it not going there? There we go. So this is where they announced, and I think I had that headline up in that video about they might actually indict up to 1,000 more people.
Wow.
And it's 2.5 years after the fact. You can track all the cases for January 6th. Talk about injustice. Oh, there was recently a case in New York, a class action suit that
Yeah.
the city of New York just settled for $13 million for people who rioted
During the
in
BLM,
2020.
the BLM riots.
It was.
Yep.
But I want to be fair to that report, because anyone on film that was actually violent or like looting stores or like, they're excluded from this lawsuit. But the city settled.
Yeah.
And I'm like, January 6th people should have a class action lawsuit for, maybe not the people breaking the windows, but the people that just walked in and walked out.
Well,
They're being indicted, and all they did was walk in, walk out. There's no sign saying they couldn't, they didn't know.
they were escorted in.
And some were escorted in. There's video.
Yeah,
of
and
the cops,
and the whole Ray Epps thing. I mean, but the police. So I really think there will be in time a huge class action suit, and it's going to go way beyond 15 million. I mean, I really see this whole thing eventually. I really do. I think it's going to turn around, and the ones that have been imprisoned, if it was unjustly, I mean, there were lives lost.
There were.
It's big. And I mean, I know we're going to get into faith in a little bit.
We are. I just let me get through a couple more things so we can get there, because that's the biggest part of our show.
Okay.
I do want to call out, somebody posted, it was Q Alerts on Truth Social. It's so funny because the synchronicity for our show is always so cool. But they posted an article from Badlands Media that was from last year. And I recommend people go check out this article. What's taking so long? And it kind of talks to what we're speaking to today as to why is justice taking so long? Why is all of this taking so long? I'm not going to go through it, but I will say it's a really, really, really good article that's still valid today. It goes through kind of the different steps that have to be made in order for justice to be accepted by the people. So it's Badlands Media on Substack, and it's called What's Taking So Long by Joe Lang. So yep, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Another cool thing that was posted recently is Dan Scavino. Actually, I've got the bigger Dan Scavino, who
Okay.
works very closely for Trump,
Mhm.
posted, we've actually been getting some hints like hang in there, from Trump himself and the team. But this is from Dan Scavino. Those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know.
Mhm.
So, in other words, stuff's probably happening, but they're not going to tell us about it, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely. I have
and
no doubt about that. I don't think we're seeing much of anything that's really happening. The
yeah,
preparation for this, and that article, and when you've mentioned accept, that people will accept. I think it'll get to a point where it's not going to even be about accept. It's going to be they're going to demand it.
yeah,
I think it's going to get to that level of fever pitch. I mean,
yes, I agree with that. I will say I posted this on Telegram, and Peter, who is one of our friends in
mhm,
Telegram, he he brought a Q post up as a reminder related to Dan's truth there. We won't telegraph our moves to the
mhm,
enemy,
mhm,
but we'll light a fire under them. And then Pepe responded, Pepe Lives Matter, to my post. And he referenced a Q Post 60 that operators never divulge.
mhm,
So it's kind of comforting knowing that Dan Scavino posted that. I think
mhm,
it's a great reminder to us
mhm.
that, they're
They
not going
do
to
help that
be,
way.
yeah, if there's anything happening in the background, they're not going to tell us about it.
They can't.
And then Trump always mentions, you know those TV generals who just
Mhm,
spout off?
mhm.
So this reminded me of Trump saying that about the TV generals that spout off.
Mhm,
Um, and what else is encouraging, just in Trump's last speech, how many references did he give to kind of give us a hint that we're still with you?
mhm,
He brought
mhm,
up Tippy Top. What else did
mhm.
he bring up? Oh, I should have
Well,
pulled
he's
this.
retruthing so many anons, so many
Yeah, so many patriots. He's
patriots.
yes, he's
In case you don't know what an
retruthing.
anon is.
Yeah, he's retruthing so many people.
Yeah. And
But
the
what we
media is going nuts about it. It's hilarious, actually.
yeah. And I think there's a few things that can be done. One is, Mike Flynn always says local action equals national impact. Do you
Mhm,
know how critical it is that we're involved in our local politics, whether it's school boards,
mhm,
city, going to city hall meetings or being on the city hall,
mhm,
um, being a commissioner, joining the county, commissions, just any local, run for mayor, run for state representative. Everybody talks about the senators and the Congress at the national level, but they're infiltrating our schools on the school boards. They're infiltrating our corporations
yep.
and, forcing like DEI into businesses.
But
And
that is getting a lot of pushback.
it's getting a lot of pushback, but I'm telling you, they're infiltrating
Oh,
everywhere.
they already have, but I would say that the conservatives are winning the culture war right now
Well, and it's
with their
more than
voice.
culture war. Like, we need to be a part of the voting. We need to volunteer to be judges, be people who watch the votes and count the
Yeah.
votes. So you don't just have to be in office, and someone asked me one time, like, what have you ever done? Well, I haven't done any big things, but I'm like, well, I was the president of my homeowners association and said we're never going to tell people they can't hang a flag on their house, like
Right.
just the little things, volunteering in your community. I work full time, so I can't be a politician, but I can certainly do my part.
But Nevs, I mean, you started the channel on Telegram. And you have over 5,000
Well, and
people.
exposing, yeah, that's just a
That's
given
a
for all of
lot.
us.
And
Yeah,
you have
that's-
a lot of talents to put that out, and then starting this.
But there may
podcast.
be times where you do need to sit back. Moxie had an amazing video that maybe we should share before we delve into the faith part of this. This actually is a segue into that.
May I just share something that I thought of with all
Yeah.
of this injustice?
Mhm.
Solomon, the wisest man in scripture in the world, right? Solomon, King Solomon.
Mhm.
In Ecclesiastes, he said, because sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the human heart is fully set to do evil. And, that's what we're dealing with right now with these people. But it's not going to go unpunished. And honestly, I would be more concerned about justice from God's perspective, than earthly justice. And I know that God is using, Trump and many people on, the side for good and for America. And it's in his timing. That's just how I see it. I think ultimately the battle is God's.
Honestly, that is just the best advice, is to remember that they ultimately will get justice.
Oh yeah. I was going to bring up some other verses about that, but they're really dark.
Well,
but
we'll have time for you to bring that up.
But God, there's a reason why God says that vengeance is mine.
Yep. And sometimes it is necessary to sit back and watch the show. Sometimes it's important to take action, like Mike Flynn suggests. I think you need to ask God where your part is and what you should do. And Moxie, is that a good setup for your video?
I think so. This video just kind of fell into my lap one day. And it, again, the synchronicity that we're finding everywhere.
Yeah, somebody randomly sent this to you.
Mm-hmm. The day after I showed you the other video we're going to be showing later.
Yeah. I think that's pretty amazing, Moxie. And you girls need to keep an eye on private chat too. While I play this, I'll just remind you of that. So let's show this video.
Does anyone else feel like this spiritual warfare is just coming in waves recently? I was talking to God about it the other night, and I was like, it just feels like every time I catch my breath, then here comes another wave, and I'm starting to get seasick. And he said, well, the waves are what bring you into the shore. See, there's been many times where I've been in spiritual warfare, and he's been like, fight, girl, fight. But this time, he's just been like, relax and let the waves carry you into shore. Because when you've made it to the shore, when you get to that little piece of paradise and you've got your toes in the sand, you're going to be looking back at the waves that brought you there. Nobody goes to the beach and turns their chairs away from the ocean. He said you won't necessarily miss this season, but you will have a sort of admiration for it because this is what got you to the next place. I get it. I know that the waves are tough. You're tired, you feel unsettled, you just want a minute to catch your breath with your feet on solid ground. But with every wave that comes, you're getting that much closer to the shore. I've been seeing a lot of things lately too about how it's almost like birthing a spiritual baby. And if you've never birthed a human, there are contractions involved, to help your baby get down to where it needs to be. Those contractions are painful and they will wear you out. But if you fight against them, it makes the process that much longer. And when I ask God, why are you asking me to rest in this season? Because normally you always ask me to fight. So I don't get why I'm supposed to just sit here and do nothing all of a sudden. He said that's because what I do next, I don't want you to equate it to anything that you have done. It's going to be all me. Because I do have a tendency to think in formulas. If I do this, then this will happen. And he was saying, I don't want you to think that any of this that's about to happen next has anything to do with your actions. It's all me. So I hope that means something exciting is coming. I don't know if this word is for anybody else but me, but if it is, hang in there, because whatever's coming is about to be beautiful.
Oh, I love that.
I do too.
Yeah, that just randomly showed up in my inbox, and it was just out of nowhere. We had just been talking about something else the day before, and it just went along with what we were planning on talking about.
Yeah, it totally went along with our next show.
Well,
I
think-
love that analogy with the waves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that, tests and trials do make us tired. And sometimes we do just need to seek rest in the Lord, in God. And just, sometimes He's preparing us for another battle. And sometimes in our weakness, He is made strong. That's not sometimes, that's always.
Yes.
So I can totally relate to what she's saying. And, we need rest. And so we don't always have to be on the front lines. But I love that because we even saw when Jesus performed miracles, they were to glorify God, right? And so sometimes the things we do will glorify Him, and sometimes just backing off and letting Him just do it, take it, that glorifies Him because there's no other explanation. I love that.
Well, and even having faith that He will.
Oh, yeah.
Malaya says, I get it. It's like pulling a vacuum cord hard and the knot forms. But if you gently flick it, it releases. Give it to God and stop fighting against the direction of the water. It'll be easier.
I love that.
But those waves do make you seasick sometimes. But she's right. When you get to the shore, you want to look back at the water. You don't look away from the water.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a good video. Really great find
Love
there.
that.
Moxie. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see on Rumble. Becca wants to know, Moxie, if you have an inbox.
I
She does.
do.
Yeah. Thank you, Deplorable. She says, or he or she, I don't know, that I do great. Thank you, Nevs.
It's he, I believe.
Oh, is Deplorable a he?
I think so.
We have two deplorables
We
in
do.
my Telegram, and one's a he and one's a she. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one, if this is even one of them. But Deplorable says, my consolation rests with God and trusting the plan, and timing is everything. That is so true.
Amen.
Yeah, Magnolia, I love Dan's post as well. With that those who know do not speak. And Becca says Badlands Media is the bee's knees of news. Yes, they are awesome.
Well, and I was thinking if there was an arrest for this, an arrest for that, it would kind of wash out some of the other things that are coming out. Like the biggest thing I think is Sound of Freedom, and the child trafficking that is a scourge on the
exposure.
entire earth. And so certain things need to get to a level before that can happen. If there was all of this excitement on one big arrest before all these other things are exposed.
A lot of people even say that nothing's happening on that front. Okay.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding? It's like
almost daily you see people being arrested for running a child sex trafficking ring.
Yeah.
Hundreds, all the time.
And people are learning about it for the first time. Some people, I mean,
they're shocked too
number
to
one
see
in the box office.
Yeah, to see how widespread it is and that it's global and it's everywhere.
And then Trump was at a screening with Jim Caviezel, and so the visibility there. That I just think that one is really, really important. I think everyone realizes Biden for a long time has been corrupt, and so these things they're not really that shocking because you're like, oh, okay. But I think
they are, maybe not for me and you, but for people.
I'm sorry, that's true. You're right. For other people, especially those that voted for him, that is shocking.
I mean, if you just look at the Sound of Freedom, the way people reacted, the people that did their TikTok videos, they were just in shock, but we already knew it was happening.
Yeah.
So those were
Yeah.
touching, like it was very touching.
Yeah.
Angela on YouTube says the people complaining about nothing happening are the perfect example of how we have been conditioned to want instant gratification.
That's true.
I do agree somewhat with that, but I also understand how people can get frustrated. And I want to acknowledge their frustration and let them know it's valid. At the same time, we want to ask them to have some faith and patience, right?
Mm-hmm.
That might be a good segue into our other video.
Okay.
Okay. I got this video from Moxie again. Thank you, Moxie, for finding the best content. I did post it on my channel a little bit ago. We're breaking it up a little bit so we can talk a little bit in between. It is about faith. And it's another mind-blowing thing. Remember when we did our from Adam to Noah, and it's like, oh, mind-blowing.
And sorry to
No.
interrupt, but
Yes.
just the source of this is my friend makes me a TikTok for you, like a personalized inbox sort of deal that she does for me. She gives me homework, friend homework, we call it.
Oh, that's awesome. Friend homework.
And my friend is an atheist. My friend is not, she's completely against God, like all of this whole thing. So when this video popped into my inbox, I was waiting for the joke. I was waiting for it to be something that she would normally send me. And she sent it with zero context, no comment to come with it or anything. Like she just forwarded it to me.
Well, it was obviously speaking to her.
It was,
She
and I
thank
haven't
you.
followed up with her about it. She's been really busy, but it was really weird to me that she would just randomly send that to me out of the blue.
Was that recent?
It came into my inbox it would have been 2 weeks ago today.
Okay, so look what's happening with you, Moxie. People are somehow in tune. I don't know. I do believe that like God drives people to do certain things. And we had planned this show a while ago. We had to cancel last time. But you got both of these videos randomly from random people, one from an atheist with no explanation, and they totally tie into our show.
Absolutely.
So
they came at a very needed time too.
Oh, that's, you know what? I think these words are going to be great for all of us. Should we start with the first? So I broke this up because it's a long video. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 4 sections of it. The last part of it, the 5th one, I'm going to play at the end before our goodbye song that we normally do. I've got a couple of comments. Angela Monroe says Moxie is awesome. Malaya says God is always leaving the 99 and pursuing the missing one. So true. So true.
Thank you, Angela.
All right, let's play the first part of this video. We'll chat a bit and then we'll play the next segment of it.
You remember in the Bible when Peter walks on water with Jesus and he starts to sink and Jesus is like, "Oh, ye of little faith." Does that not bother you? That bothers me. I'm like, Jesus, there's 11 other dudes in the boat. This one actually walked on water. And you're saying that's little faith? I mean, honestly, that's not very encouraging. If Peter walked on water and he had a little faith, I'm in trouble. But what if that doesn't mean what we think it means? In Matthew 14:31, it says, Jesus immediately reached out his hand and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" So here's the thing about the Bible. I'm friends with the author. So when this started really bothering my mind, I just hit him up and asked him, "What's that about?" And God replied to me with 2 words I wasn't expecting. Google it. So that's exactly what I did. I got on Google and I typed in define the word little. Now, whenever you look up a definition, there's always like one definition and then another one under it. The first one was exactly what I was expecting. It said small or short in size or stature. And that's what we all think when we hear this story. You have little faith. It wasn't very big, but it was the second definition that blew my mind. It said short in length or duration. You catching that? But Jesus was never saying Peter didn't have huge faith. It clearly took huge faith to walk on water. What he was saying was, Peter, bro, your faith sure didn't last very long.
Ooh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Just another, all you need is a mustard seed, but it needs to last.
Yeah. And that's what he's talking about, is endurance. And that's what we're all learning in this time. I mean, I feel like my faith has been really strong, but it can always grow, of course. But Peter thought his was really strong too, right? And it was a little short-lived. But I will say that I really think God was looking past that moment with Peter, because it does seem discouraging, like, you have little faith. But I think God was looking past that because he knew the purpose that he had for Peter, and it was big,
Well, yeah. And I do think you're so right. And it was so big. But the example that sets, as soon as Peter, like, looked down or stopped,
when he took his eyes off Jesus.
when he took his eyes off,
Yeah.
he fell.
Yeah.
And it's just such a good story to remind us that we need to keep that faith going, even if it's not so great that you can walk on water.
Yeah.
But
we need to keep our focus right, because when we take our focus off the Lord and we look at the circumstances, they might not be that great.
But that's where your patience comes in, and then your frustration shows me you're losing faith.
Well, I think that's when fear comes in, when we look at all the circumstances.
Well, he talks about that, so we should probably, is that the next segment that he talks about that? Any other thoughts from you, Moxie, before I show the next one?
I think you guys covered it.
Okay. All right.
See, the Bible says faith the size of a mustard seed will move a mountain. And a mustard seed is the smallest seed. What he's saying there is, it's not about the size of your faith. It's about the duration. You see, here's what happens. We come to God with huge faith, expecting he's going to move that mountain. But then he takes too long. It doesn't move the way you wanted it to move, or in the time you thought it should. Then what happens is fear creeps in. Is God mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Is God even real? Does he really stay true to his promises? Those are all fear-based thoughts. And the truth is, you can't have fear and faith at the same time.
That's the fear. Yep. He talks about it more in the next segment, but fear does creep in. I mean, many of us have fear of the unknown, of what's coming in the future. All of this stuff that's happening scares people.
It does. And I have this saying that I like to say when people come in and say, it's taking too long. When's it going to happen? It's going to happen when it happens, and not until it happens.
That's exactly true.
It's not untrue. It's not untrue. No.
And not before it happens.
Yep.
I'm sure you bring them great comfort when you.
I'm sure.
I was thinking about the mustard seed, and it's like the tiniest seed, but it grows to be one of the biggest plants in the garden.
Yeah.
It grows to be huge.
But, we're told we only need the size of a mustard seed's worth of faith.
Right? And I was thinking about, like, why is that? I think it's because it's not about the amount of faith. It's about the object of our faith.
Well, and not only that, it's
because then he does with that little bit of faith. He grows it. And so if we had faith in something ridiculous, then that doesn't, but who do we have faith in? So it's a little
Where
bit.
does your faith lie?
Right.
Yes.
So, we're that storm that Peter was in, is a perfecting storm. I was thinking about that. We're all in this process of being perfected, right? Of growing. So anyway.
Well, yeah, your faith can grow, but honestly, like, It just needs to be sincere. It's kind of like when you apologize to somebody for something that you've done,
Mhm.
you could say the words, but maybe you don't really mean it. But if you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad that I impacted you that way, like that's like having real faith, like being really sorry.
Mhm.
Same thing with repenting, right? Like you really have to mean it. You know, you can't just say, I repent and I feel bad for what I've done. But yeah, yeah. And it just needs to be the size of a mustard seed, but it has to be real. It has to
Yeah.
be real faith.
Yeah, it's well, like you're saying when you apologize, it's not what you say necessarily, it's how you say it, and what so much communication is beyond the words. It's tone. It's so people know if you're sincere, and
Yeah.
certainly God knows.
Well, and just meaning it internally, because
Mhm.
I think the tone will come across
Mhm.
based off of whether you're sincere or not. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, the faith is important. Um, I will play the next clip because he goes more into that
Okay.
fear.
Peter's story proves exactly that. He has faith, he's walking on the water. Looks at the waves, start to have fear, he begins to sink. You can't have them at the same time because they both want the same thing from you. Fear wants you to believe something that hasn't happened yet. And faith wants you to believe something that hasn't happened yet. The difference is, which one are you going to believe?
Yeah.
Which one are you going to believe? They both want the same thing from you, to
Right.
believe something that hasn't happened yet.
Carrie, what was
Fear.
it you were saying about fear?
Pardon?
What were you saying about the letters in fear?
Oh, false evidence appearing real.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that.
And then faith is the confidence, it is confidence in what we hope for and assurance of what we do not see. So he's absolutely right.
Yeah. Inspectors in chat now too.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to see everybody
Yeah.
that's in chat with us.
Aw.
Yeah, this guy brings some great analogies, and it's so true. Faith and fear both want the same thing.
Mhm.
It's like you may as well take the faith one then.
Well, and fear, it causes us to take our eyes off of God because that's when the fear creeps in. And so, of
Oh,
course, that's
yeah.
a tactic that the enemy uses because it works. And because they can't exist at the same time, that does pull you away from your faith in God. So
So true.
it's constant, and it exaggerates our difficulties, doesn't it? When we're afraid, makes us discouraged, right?
It's true.
Make decisions we normally wouldn't make.
Yeah, sometimes we
Mm.
give up, and the blame game. I think I can think of a lot of examples of that in Scripture, but but faith is so different because it causes those problems that fear exaggerates. It causes them to shrink, right?
Mm-hmm. It's
And
true.
I was thinking when Peter stepped out of the boat, he was being obedient, wasn't he? Because he said, "If that's you, Lord, call to me or ask me." Anyway, Jesus said, "Come." I don't know the exact words, but he said, "Come." And so Peter was just being obedient, and that shows us that obedience develops faith, right?
It can. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because sometimes obedience is with things that we don't necessarily like, we don't necessarily understand,
That's true.
but it gives us the power to hold on to. And I think of Job. Do most people have heard of Job, right?
Yeah.
The wretched thing that he went through, and God knew what was happening, but Job didn't. Job didn't know anything behind the scenes, and yet his faith sustained him through, I think it was like a year and a half even. Can you imagine, like, everything that he went through? Lost everything. He was the wealthiest, most blessed in all the land, most righteous, and just his children all died in one day, like all 10. his wife is saying you should curse God. His friends are saying, what did you do? You did something really bad to get all this, right? Boils all over his, I mean, just.
But honestly, like the ones that suffer the most are usually the most righteous.
Right? I mean, well, God will use it for that because he doesn't waste anything. But he was chosen. I think that faith first of all enabled him to endure all that. But I think he was also chosen for a very high purpose. I don't know how to put it, to exalt the glory of God, because Satan was saying, he only loves you because he has so many blessings, and God allowed what happened. And so really, a lot of people say, oh, that's Job's God, how wretched, but he was chosen for a purpose that was to exalt the glory of God, which he did. And then what happened? He was blessed like double fold. So I love that story, because that's what our faith does. It helps us endure. And I think that's what we're all doing now in what America is going through, what the entire world is going through, right?
The whole world.
It really is. It's global. And so
there's a good versus evil happening right now.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I would do it without faith, to be honest.
You know what's interesting to me related to that is I used to fear evil things. They used to scare me. And even scary movies, or people who looked freaky, or people who just believed in evil things, or even worrying about whether there was a ghost or something, like that kind of stuff. Stuff used to scare me, and none of it does anymore.
That's awesome.
And I've noticed that happened because I've always been Christian, but the last few years I've been growing and actually wanting to. I've been more faithful.
Mm-hmm.
That mustard seed's starting to sprout a little bit.
Well, you've been seeking him.
Huh?
You've been seeking him.
I have on my own. So not because of society telling me I need to.
Yeah. That's what it's about. It's the relationship.
Yes. So, and I'm no expert. So I appreciate, how much you know.
No experts on our show tonight.
No, but I'm just saying where I'm at in my journey, right? I'm no expert. I've been Christian my whole life. I went to Bible study when I was, I've gone to Bible study. I went to Sunday school as a kid, and, I've always been Christian, but it's like, didn't feel real until the last few years, last several years. Probably
because of the difficulty, right? Because of the trials that we're going through. Is that why?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because it's being tested.
Could be. Although I've been through trials my whole life, to be honest. I'm thinking back, I'm like, oh, I've been through some stuff. But I don't know. I just think it's the season for it. A lot of people are waking up.
Yeah.
And for me, it's probably been, what are we, 2023? It's probably been about 7 years, slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all three of us at a different place in our journey.
Mm-hmm.
But this video, this guy has another cool thing to point out. So I'd like to share the last clip we have. So
are there 2 more clips, or
this is the last segment for our discussion. The other one I was just going to play before our final song that we always play. Just kind of let them go together, unless you want to talk through that one too.
Oh, I don't know. I just didn't know we did timing yet, but maybe anyway, go ahead.
Yep.
We come to God with big faith, wanting that mountain to just move out of the way. And then we get mad when God decides to move it one rock at a time. But remember, it's not about how big your faith is. It's about how long your faith will last. God is always true to his word. His promises are all yes and amen. But his ways are not our ways, and his timing is definitely not our timing.
I love that. We
Yeah.
expect the mountain to just move because we have faith it's going to move. But
Yeah.
God decides to take one rock at a time.
And I feel that so hard right now.
Yes.
I feel that in my soul right now. It's just one stone at a time.
Yep. And that's how God wants it.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, even though we are expecting something different, here's the trouble. We have expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dennis is in YouTube. And Dennis says, God is much bigger than our problems, so nothing to fear about. That is so true, Dennis. That's kind of what I meant. Like, I'm not afraid of anything anymore.
That's freedom. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and as far as timing, I was thinking, God is rarely early and never late. And in scripture, I mean, did Jesus ever rush anywhere? Never did he? I was trying to think of a time when he rushed. I mean, even
Maybe when he was flipping the tables.
well, he was just pissed.
I know, but
The man would ride a donkey. He didn't want to get anywhere very fast.
that's
Right?
true.
But I mean, even with Lazarus, remember, he waited 2 days before he went to see Lazarus, but he had a bigger purpose for that, right? Is to bring him back to life. So, it's so true. His ways are not our ways. And
Yeah, and people were frustrated, like, why aren't you coming? Why aren't you coming?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, don't worry about it. And Dennis says Abraham had to wait a long time for his promise.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, this video was so cool. I thank you for sharing it, Moxie.
Thank you, Moxie.
Yes. It's perfect for tonight and I'm hoping that a lot of this can bring some encouragement to people that it's okay to feel your feels and be frustrated and vent once in a while, but let's also try to lift each other up, encourage each other, and remember to have that faith, and remember you want the mountain to move, but God might want to take it one rock at a time.
And he's doing so much with us in that process. Yeah, he's not in a hurry to grow us. He's very concerned about our character more than our comfort, and I mean that's how it works.
Yep. I mean, we're only on this earth for a short time, and this is like it's supposed to be tough to be here,
And our comfort level is really kind of up to us. We decide how comfortable we're going to be, and we need to adjust accordingly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just know, there's a faith. I just know better things are to come, whether it's in my lifetime or shortly after. I just know that, there's the promise of life on earth as it is in heaven, right? So
absolutely. I was thinking about David and Goliath because I've been reading Samuel, 1st, 2nd Samuel, and kind of. Can I just share this? Kind of, it's like a final thought here.
Absolutely. Share.
I feel like the elite are like Goliath, right? Because they have never been defeated. They're super powerful, like Goliath. I mean, he was I think he was like 9'9". He was probably a Nephilim, right? Fallen angel with the human woman. But anyway, we don't.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, who's almost 10 feet tall. And then here's this little shepherd boy.
You always have the little details.
I'm sorry, I could go digress. I'll try to.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good.
But we have this giant who's been undefeated, this Philistine, and we have this little ruddy-faced David, shepherd boy, who has a sling. He doesn't have the same skills as Goliath. He doesn't have the same, sword or weapons. He just has a sling. He has what what God has equipped him with,
Mhm.
right? And he knew that Goliath could just squash him like a grape, right?
Yeah.
But I was reminded what he said, because Goliath was taunting him and God, and David said, "You dare mock the living God?"
Ooh.
Right? And so David saw the battle through God's perspective, not his own. And we need to do the same, right?
Wow, that's a really good thing to point out there, Carrie.
Well, I mean, it just makes sense, right? Because Goliath
Mhm.
was undefeated. The elite have been largely, I mean, but guess what? God has been undefeated for all eternity. So I don't know.
Well, and just David's stories
Yeah.
really show how faith works,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
if we see things through God's perspective, it's not always easy because his ways are so different. But
They are different than we should never expect, have those expectations. We should just I don't
he was defending his God,
know. Mhm.
you know.
Yep.
So I just love that. And I just feel like David, I feel like victory is, I think it's coming. And I think it's
I
on
think it's coming too. I
I think
really
it's on the way
do.
to meet us, you know. I feel like God's like gathering his army. I mean, our church has increased 46%
Since
Boy.
since these last couple of years with COVID and everything.
Oh, really?
It's unbelievable. They're adding parking lots.
Wow.
Seriously, 46%.
There is, a great awakening. We covered the revivals
Yep.
that were happening.
Yeah.
There's it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. We are so blessed to be alive in these
We
times.
we really, really are.
We are. Molea says if everything was easy, there wouldn't be a need for faith.
That's right.
How hard do you cling to God when you're scared or going through difficulties? That's so true. Maybe God is helping you or helping to grow our faith, moving one stone at a time. Oh, that's a good point, Malaya.
hmm
Sometimes one stone at a time is necessary to grow our faith.
hmm
What a great point. Yeah. Do you have any other closing thoughts?
I have a few Bible verses.
Moxie, I'm so excited. Okay.
They were sent to me. It was just a conduit. So,
Well, be that conduit, girl. Be that conduit.
so when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. And that was Isaiah 43, verse 2.
That's awesome. That's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Goes perfect with what we're talking about today.
I also have, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
Matthew 11, verse 28.
Love that one.
I just love the whole chapter of Matthew.
hmm
It's a really good one.
Very, very encouraging.
But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. That's 2
Yes.
Corinthians
hmm
chapter 4, verse 7.
hmm
Yes.
And I have one more. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah. And that is Psalm 46, verses 10 and 11.
I love it. Love it. Those are awesome, Moxie.
Mhm. I've been
Beautiful.
in the Psalms a lot lately. That is the place that I go for comfort. And when you think about all that David went through, again, another example. I mean, all of that was forged through difficulty, through pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all those beautiful Psalms. And it's like refining us in the fire, like gold, right?
Wow, you're just very eloquent. That's awesome. I love that. Refining us in the fire like gold. I love it.
Well, but gold melts away. Think about that in the fire. Right? Everything perishes except our souls. And oh, I'm trying to remember this quote, and I wish I remember who it is, but that just how much God values our souls, and a soul that has been through a trial has eternal value. That when we get through it, there's eternal value. It's not just here,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, he created everything. All
And
that is.
and
Oh
so,
my man, we have to do a show. We have to do a show on creation, by the way. I have to talk to you guys about this.
okay, I'm in.
Okay. Uh no, yeah. Sorry, I'm digressing.
That's okay.
I
I
just
mean,
thought about
there's so many stories I wanted to share. And I mean, like just Peter, when he denied Jesus 3 times, like when we fail a test, let's say, or when we may have doubt,
but Jesus told him he would, so he already knew.
he knew, but he still did it. And how sad is that? But it didn't change God's plan for Peter.
No.
It didn't. And it actually strengthened Peter. And look who he was, how God used him as the rock of the church, the early church. He led it. And I mean, I think
Well, and God didn't create us to be perfect.
definitely not.
Even though we're, created in his image, but
Well, I think before the fall we can have a discussion about that. But anyway.
yeah, I'm just saying, he has a purpose for different people, and he uses people who are imperfect for his purpose. That's one of the arguments against, people who say Elon Musk is evil because he was wearing some satanic thing. It's like, well, God uses all kinds of people.
God uses evil for his purposes. Look at the
He
cross.
uses evil for his purposes.
Look at the cross. That was the most evil. Satan was like, but
Yep.
nope.
Yep. Exactly.
So
One thing I want to point out, Moxie, you kind of had a good analogy the other day talking about a famous poem that's out there. Do you want to talk about that one? Oh, do you remember what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Should I just say what we talked about?
Sure.
We talked about the footprints in the sand.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my brain just it just didn't work.
No, it's okay.
I've had so much going on in the background lately. It's just,
I know you're going through a lot right now, honey. Don't worry about it.
I am going through it. And when we were talking, it reminded me of sometimes we feel like we've been deserted. We just sometimes we feel like God has forgotten us, or looked away a little bit. But it reminds me of the poem, and I'm gonna tear up. Oh my gosh, why am I tearing up?
Because you're feeling it. It's good. Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna cry.
Mm-hmm.
But it reminds me, my grandparents always had this really pretty painting that had that poem "Footprints in the Sand," and trying not to cry.
No, go ahead.
My words aren't gonna come out.
Let it out.
I'm trying not to ugly cry. Like,
oh, nah, you're beautiful.
And I don't remember exactly how the poem goes at this moment, but it says along the lines of, when you think that you've been abandoned and there's only one set of footprints in the sand, it's because I carried you.
It was then that I carried you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
yeah.
Sorry. I should have helped you just by, but I didn't want to because it was like your thing. So.
I don't know why I'm tearing up either.
Because you're feeling it. You're feeling the Holy Spirit in your heart, girl. I love it.
So you guys are human. I'm not a bot.
You're human. Don't tell anybody, people, when you see her on Telegram. No. I do want to comment that deplorable. Oh, it's deplorable Mike. Okay, so now we know which deplorable. He said both videos tonight were very inspiring and somewhat comforting as we wait for more people to awaken in this information war. It's so true. And Inspector says fire purifies us.
Mm-hmm.
Let God work on you. Let him put you through many fires in your life and stay the course. Your faith will multiply. Beautifully said.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we do have one more segment from that video we were showing, and then we can close out the show. Do we want to watch that last segment and then say our goodbyes? Okay.
But let me encourage you today. Whatever the promise is he spoke over your life, whatever you've been believing him for, whether you're coming today with huge faith or your faith is beat down to nothing, remember, it's not the size of your faith that matters. It's just that you stay in this story until you see him complete what he said he was going to do. Don't give up on God today. He loves you, he sees you, and he's making a way even though you can't see it right now. Keep choosing faith. Fear's got nothing to offer you. And think about that for a minute.
Fear's got nothing to offer you. I love it. Don't give up on God today.
You know, I was going to share a story. I won't share the whole story, but it's about thanking God before the provision, before the victory.
Yes.
And trusting him for our daily bread, right?
Yes.
Daily, not not the whole week, just daily. But, you know, a lot of people say, well, we thank him after, but no, we thank him before, because we stand on his promises. And
that is such a good point, because I always thank God for my blessings, because I do realize that I don't thank him for my future blessings.
Yeah.
I just learned something tonight, Carrie.
Well, okay. So may I briefly just share not the whole story, but it's from a man who lived in the 1800s, George Mueller. He was a missionary. He was an evangelist. He lived in Bristol, England, and he cared for over 120,000 orphans throughout his lifetime, traveled to 42 countries. Okay. And it gives me chills to think about it. And he did all that without ever asking for money. And because he trusted and he thanked God beforehand. And so there was a morning where all the plates and cups were empty. And the children were standing there looking at him like there was no food, no money to buy food. And they were waiting for the morning meal. And he said, children, we must not be late for school, because what are you going to do? You know, we got to go to school because there's no food. And then he lifted up his hands and he said, dear Father, we thank thee for what thou art going to give us to eat. And there was a knock at the door. The baker stood there and said, Mr. Mueller, I couldn't sleep last night. Somehow I felt you didn't, I'm quoting, I felt you didn't have bread for breakfast, and the Lord wanted me to send you some. So I got up at 2 a.m., baked some fresh bread, and I brought it.
Wow.
This is from his journal. And he thanked the baker, and then no sooner had the baker left, a second knock came to the door. It was the milkman. And he said that his milk cart had broken down in front of the orphanage. And he would like to give the children his cans of fresh milk.
Okay, so that's different. I actually have that. I'm always trust that God will provide when I am at my wit's end with, like, I don't worry.
Yeah. But I mean, there's one of so many.
What's that story from, Carrie?
His name is George Mueller. He lived in the 19th century, Bristol, England, Muller from 1805 to 1898.
Is that like in a book, or where?
It's from his journal, and it's one of many.
Okay. So where can people find that journal?
I don't know. George Mueller.
Where'd you find it?
Oh.
Okay, that's okay.
One of my devotionals, probably. I'm so sorry. I don't.
No, that's okay.
I read from a lot of sources.
I just was hoping you would know, so we could tell people if they wanted to go read about that story. It's incredible. Yeah. So, but they can search it. Google it, just like that guy said in this video. God told him to Google it.
I did just that. It looks like there is George Mueller. Answers to Prayer. There's an autobiography that he put out. There's quite a few books.
Yeah.
And
great.
First thing that pops up is Amazon.
Oh, so we just have to look them up.
We can do that with what's happening in our world today, and you know, some people may think that God is that his silence is consent, but it's not.
No.
Just like we know people that he's using are working behind the scenes, God's working big time behind the scenes, you know?
Right. And we don't know what's happening behind the
Right.
scenes.
And
There's a
we
lot
can-
we don't know.
And we can thank him for the victory ahead, and we can have faith that it will come. So,
Yep.
because that opens doors for miracles, that kind of
Sure
faith.
does. Oh my gosh. We should have a show about miracles. Man. Okay. We'll talk about some future shows. We also want to start maybe doing some interviews. I actually would love to start interviewing some patriots and just kind of talk about their journey, see how they protect themselves during the good and evil.
Mhm.
I actually, said that to who was it that posted, and I said, "Oh, I want you on my show." Oh, it was Pepe Deluxe.
Yeah, yeah.
So I emailed him. Hopefully, he'll want to come on the
Oh,
show.
that would be so cool.
But if anybody knows any other patriots that would love to come on and have us interview you and ask you some questions, we just want to talk about your journey through these difficult times.
Mhm.
You know,
People in our chat, people that
what you do to protect yourself, like, you know,
Mhm.
your armor of God,
Mhm.
between with the good and evil, how your family's dealing with stuff. We would love to get to know some more of the patriots in this movement. So
That would be great.
yeah, reach out to us. You can just comment on Telegram or on Truth
Mhm.
Social to me.
Mhm.
Or if you see Carrie or Moxie posting, let them know.
Mhm.
But yeah. Yeah, we've got a lot of plans for future shows. I don't know. What do we have? We have a couple hundred topics. So
No shortage.
but we want to feather some interviews in there and get to know each other and support each other and encourage each other. So, all right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
This was a
you.
really great topic. I hope people watching felt a little encouragement. We wanted to cover this. We felt like it was needed right now. And we hope you have a wonderful night. And by the way, if you ever do want to support us, you can always do a Rumble rant on Rumble because YouTube doesn't let us do those, whatever YouTube's version of that is. Otherwise, we do have a link tree where you can tip us. And yeah, so just feel free to support us. Otherwise, send prayers or comments.
Yeah.
That works too. Like our podcast, because that will get more exposure,
Mhm.
more people to
And
see
subscribe.
it. Subscribe to
Share
us.
us with your friends.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and I just applied to Twitter to let people subscribe there so that we can have people see our topics ahead of time. And yeah, and potentially contribute. We can give them shout outs and potentially be on the show. So that's another way we could get some patriots potentially. But yeah, so you could subscribe on Twitter too at Nevs TV. I haven't really been active on the QWP one, so I'll probably stay active on Nevs. And then Carrie, should I show where you can find all of us? Do we have the headlines on?
Oh, I think I forgot to put mine on.
Oh, okay. Where can they find you, Carrie? Because they can see ours on the screen.
Carrie Genevieve on Truth Social.
Okay.
And yeah, and Twitter, Carrie Genevieve 1.
Okay.
But I'm not that busy there or active there, but I'm trying. So.
And you're on Telegram. You don't have a channel, but you're active on.
I'm in your chat.
She's active in my chat. You're active in other chats too.
Yes.
Sometimes. Yeah.
But that's kind of that's home.
Aw.
So if you haven't joined Nevs on Telegram, come on. We want to see you in chat.
Come on. Come see Nev's Telegram.
It's so much fun. It's such a great vibe. It's very positive.
We try to keep it positive.
Mm-hmm.
But we let you vent if you need to as well.
Yes,
so
you can vent.
Don't be afraid of venting too once in a while. All right, guys. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Good night, everyone. Good night, friends.
can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright